Welcome to Mishna study Masachat Sheviit Perek Vav Mishna Aleph. Over here, we're going to speak about the territories in Eretz Yisrael where the laws of Sheviit apply. Right, so this is an important Mishnah, important principles, and we're also going to learn the laws of Sefechim, which is also a very important law of Sheviit. So this happens to be an interesting Mishnah. Shalosh aratzot LaSheviit. There are three territories when it comes to Sheviit. Right? If you look at Israel, you look at a map. Not everywhere in Israel, right, of modern day Israel, is going to fall under the boundaries, under the borders of Sheviit. Right? The borders of modern day Israel are bigger than they were in the times of Ezra, and they're smaller than the times of David and Shlomo. And that's what we're going to be discussing in our Mishnah. So there are three territories when it comes to Sheviit. Kol she'achziku ole Bavel. All the entire place, the entire area that Ole Bavel, right? This is the Aliyah, the second Aliyah. This is not Ole Mitzrayim. It's not when Yoshua came, right? It's the second return when Ezra came, right? After the first Galut. That's from Eretz Yisrael ve'ad Keziv, all of Eretz Yisrael in the south up until Keziv. So Keziv, lo ne'echal ve'lo ne'evad, right? So if you look at the map over here, Keziv's on the top, in the middle, on the left. Right, so all of it is Israel up until Keziv, and you see there's a little red area that's circled off. That's the area that is lo ne'evad, lo ne'echal ve'lo ne'evad. You're not allowed to eat from there, and you're not allowed to work the land there. Now, what does it mean to eat from there? Eat from there is going to be isur of sifichim. I'll explain in a moment. I just want to get through the Mishnah. B'chol she'achziku ole Mitzrayim. Any territory that Ole Mitzrayim, this is the first Aliyah, the time of Yoshua, when they entered, Mikeziv ve'ad nahar ve'ad amanom, ne'echal aval lo ne'evad. Right, so all this area, right, over here, let's just flip to the map, from, up till Amana, right, up until, Amana v'lifnim, this whole area up until the blue line, over there, the law applies that what? That you're allowed to eat, but you're not allowed to work the land. Now, mina nahar ve'ad manom v'lifnim ne'echal v'ne'evad, right? And from the nahar, from the river, seems to be the Litani River, and northward, right? At that, over there, you're allowed to go ahead and eat from there. You're allowed to work the land and everything. So what's going on over here? We know there were two aliyot. There was a time aliyah in the time of Yoshua from Ole Mitzrayim, and a second one in the times of Ezra. We say the first Kiddusha of Eretz Yisrael, when they came and they conquered the land, that was kadosh for the time they were there. But when they went to Galut, that Kiddusha left, right? And it left. Now, once Ezra came and returned, right, he was mahzik over there, the territories, and there was Kiddusha there once again. And the second Kiddusha never left. Right? So, Kiddusha Rishona, Kiddusha L'Sha'ata, Velo Kiddusha L'Atid Lavo. It was Kiddush from the moment and not for the future. And the Kiddusha Shniya, Kiddusha L'Sha'ata, Kiddusha L'Atid Lavo also. Right? It's also for the future, so that Kiddusha never left. So that's the Kiddusha of Ole Bavel in times of Ezra. That territory is Kadosh, right? Mideoraita. Mideoraita, the Rabbanan is actually interesting mahloket, because even in the times of Ezra, was most of Israel there. Right, you also need most of Israel in Eretz Yisrael. And we know in the times of Ezra, there wasn't such a return to Eretz Yisrael. Sadly, it's a very interesting piece and story to read in Sefer Ezra. Highly encourage. But over here, focus back to our Mishnah. Right, this area that Ezra conquered. So you're not allowed to, eat anything from there, and you're not allowed to work the land. Now, what does it mean to eat something? So this area, right, that is really, potentially deoraita. Right, all of Israel is in the lands, potentially Doraita, right? What happened? People were going ahead and they were violating the law. They were planting on the Sheviit. And what were they saying? Oh, it grew on its own. But they were literally violating the law. Hachamim came and said, anything that grows on its own, you're not allowed to eat on the Shemitah year, right? And this is called sifichim. And therefore, Sefechim, right, are not asur from the Torah. It's a law. It's the Gezerah D'Rabbanan. And anything that could grow on its own, right? So this comes to exclude fruits, right? Fruits are not growing. It's not something that people plant, right? That could grow on its own. right? The fruit trees are planted from way before, right? But like when it comes to, wheats or, grains or certain types of vegetables, right, that someone could go ahead and plant, that's going to be asur to eat. So unless it's fruits or unless it's vegetables that is a hazakah that's coming from the hefker, you're not allowed to eat this from the territory of Ole Bavel, right? That was up until that red line. That was up until that red line that we mentioned, right? Because that's the deoraita. That's the place of deoraita. Now, the second place, any Ole Mitzrayim, right? So this is, again, it doesn't have the Kiddusha deoraita of Sheviit. Chamim will gozer over there that you're not allowed to work the land in that area. Right? You're not allowed to work the land in the area, but you're not allowed to work the land there, but you are allowed to eat it from the Sifichaim, right? Because it's not the Isur Doraita, it's not the place of Ole Bavel. So therefore, we don't have to be Gozer of Gezerat Sifichaim. Now, from the Nahar and Amanom Vilifnim and onward, right? That's all the way north. That's an area that Ole Bavel didn't conquer, and Ole Mitzrayim didn't conquer. Yoshua didn't even reach that far when he first came, right? We saw David maybe did conquer a little further north, but again, that wasn't part of Ole Mitzrayim. That is Ne'echal v'ne'avad. You are allowed to eat the Sifichim in that area. You are allowed to work the land in that area because that's considered Chutz Haaretz, right? And this would apply anywhere in Chutz Haaretz. You are allowed to work the land in the Shemitah year in Chutz Haaretz, and of course you're allowed to eat from those Sifichim as well.